So this part, I'm going to talk about, costing of software development, uh, different types of costing, cases. We are going to discuss it here. Now, when you talk about, developing or outsourcing, most important factor is what we call total cost of ownership, which defines as the direct costs and also other indirect expenses. Like, for example, acquisition cost, maybe, once you purchase it, like, and then the other expenses include the ongoing support and maintenance, which is not the direct costs. So you have to consider both of them, not the initial cost that you spend on developing or purchasing a software. So when you have a situation like this, it's very important that you look at several alternatives, right? Because one of the problem is the indirect cost, which means like the support and maintenance cost, they are not very apparent, like you can clearly see. Initial one, it's of course the direct cost will not be that difficult to calculate, but the problem might be with this, what we call the indirect expenses, right? So um, most of the cases, people would say that 80% of total cost occur after purchase, right? So these are like some of the things you have to carefully consider. Now, to do this, we need some financial analysis tools. There are different ways of analyzing, these, and we are going to focus on three things. First one we call payback analysis, which indicates that how long it will take to pay back the costs that you spend on, purchasing. Second one we call return on investment, ROI. Again, it compare the total return with the total costs. That is the second one. The last one is more important one. We call net present value. Now, so far, the previous two will not consider what will happen in the, with the time. So considering the, reflecting the time that this, cost and benefit occurs, what it values to the present state, we are going to evaluate using net present value or NPV. Right. Now, when you're doing this cost benefit analysis, you have to list all the development strategies, identify all the costs and benefits, right? And you have to also identify when the cost will be incurred, meaning like, you are going to spend on that, when you are going to receive the benefits. And you have to consider the full plot, and you also have to think about the scalability of this. This should include the support cost for hardware and software, and various software licensing options, fixed fees, formulas based on number of users and transactions. This is based on if you are taking volume licensing. Apply financial as to each alternative, and then you are going to compare the proposals when you have like multiple proposals. So software acquisition process, if you look at the different stages, you can evaluate the requirements, and then you can consider network and web related issues, identify software vendors and outsourcing options, because usually when you want to purchase, there could be several vendors or outsourcing options are there. Now, once you have them, you need to evaluate them. You have to perform one of the financial analysis that we have discussed earlier, and then you make the recommendation which one to choose. And finally, you are going to implement the solution. Right. Now, when you do the software acquisition, you can request for proposals. Usually, if you're not clear about the exact objectives, so you can actually request for the proposal. and request for quotation. So these two depends on your requirement. So requests for proposal, they are going to respond to a list of system requirements. And when you have request for quotation, we look for some bids. That means you specify your requirement and they have to come up with the, bidding, the prices that they, quote for particular task. Right. Now, let's look at this transition to system design. So once we have the system requirement documents is a deliverable or end of the products, we have to have the system analysis phase. And the document we have system requirements, constraint, and recommendation. And it also focus on the cost and time estimates. Right. So this will be the starting point, right? And at that point, the organization can decide whether you are going to have in-house system or you are going to change the current system or whether you are going to get customized packages or whether you are going to do additional system analysis work and so on. A difference. Right. Now, let's focus on cost calculations. So the first one is you need to identify different types of costs. We call these as cost classifications. So we can classify them as tangible, intangible, direct, co-indirect, fixed and variable, development or operational. So let's look at the details. Now, when you say tangible costs that really specific value, like your salaries, hardware, software purchase, office supplies. Intangible, that means you cannot calculate easily. Now, for example, when you say customer dissatisfaction, low employee morale, reduce information availability, these are, you cannot put any dollar amount of monetary value. It's not possible. Then now we can discuss the direct cost and indirect costs. So we have direct costs. So they are associated with the development of the specific system. So which is called direct. So for example, when you take the salaries of the project team members or purchasing hardware, so that it's, direct costs. Indirect cost, we have what we call the overhead expenses, development of, a particular information system. You cannot put it into a particular information system. So then it becomes an indirect costs, right? And the salaries of network administrators, when you use copy machine rentals and insurance expenses, also comes under indirect costs. Then we have fixed cost and the variable cost. Fixed cost means we have depend on the activity or the efforts. So for example, when you take salaries and hardware and charges, we call fixed cost. Variable costs depend on the level of activity. Or for example, the cost of printing paper, supplies, telephone line charges, it's variable. It's not a particularly fixed cost. And this is applied to several categories. Now, we discussed earlier a couple of categories, but when you take a particular cost, it can come up into one of these, categories. So, for example, if you take overtime pay, so we can classify it as a development, variable, and direct. And then monthly fee for maintaining the company's website would be the operational, and it's fixed fee, and it's an indirect fee. So likewise, you can put into multiple categories. Then we have benefits. Now, when you say benefits, you can classify them as tangible or intangible, fixed or variable, direct, indirect. And it also can be based on the nature of benefit as a positive benefit or a cost avoiding benefit. Right. Now let's look at these two benefits. Positive benefit means it will increase the revenue, or it will improve the service, or it will contribute the organization. So this is considered as a direct result of the new information system. And cost avoiding benefits is expenses that would necessary if the new system were not installed. For example, having work with the current staff instead of hiring additional people, not having to replace existing hardware or software, and avoid problems that otherwise would be faced with the current system. So these considered as a cost avoidance benefit. Okay, now that we have discussed about the cost classification and benefit classification, now we can discuss about the payback analysis. I told you the payback analysis mean how long it will take to get back what you spend on this, right? So this is called a payback period. So these are the steps that we are going to follow. We have to determine the initial development cost, and then you have to estimate any benefits, and then you have to determine any operating costs. Right. Now, this graph actually shows you what will happen during the time of the development and the costs. So usually in the beginning, you spend quite a lot of money on developing the system. And what's happening gradually reduce, and it will have a same state most of the time, right? The benefits, on the other hand, goes the other way around. So it goes like this. When the system operates, it's keep on increasing, right? And then when you put these two together, here is how it looks like. So if you can actually map the area under the curve with the cost and the benefit and cost, right? When it matches, we call that period as a payback period. Right. Now, when you're going to do payback analysis, you have to calculate the time it will take. So you have to consider the accumulated benefits together with accumulated cost of development. Okay, here is the example. We have two projects, and year 0 means a starting year and goes up to 6 years. So the second column indicates the costs. So the first year, it will take around like 60,000 for project A. For the first year, for the project B, it's about 80,000. Look at the second column. It's called cumulative costs. So which means it added up and you can see the price. Similarly, we can give some monetary value for benefits as well. So you can see for the project A, the benefit is around like 3,000. But in project B, right? So we can talk about starting from 6,000. Right. So now let's see how we can identify this. So how do you do that? So what we could do, we can actually plot these, right? And then once you plot this, you can actually identify an intersection of this. And that intersection talks about the payback analysis for project A and project B. Right, now let's move on to the second one. Now, second financial tool we call return on investment. In short, we say ROI, which is a percentage rate. And what you do is you consider the total benefits, you subtract with the total cost, and then you will get the total cost. Right? So when you talk about the ROI, it will talk about the costs and benefits for a longer period of time. And then when you say ROI calculation, you usually are based on total cost and benefits, right? And depends on the time limit. Period could be 5 to 7 years. Right. Now let's look at how to perform ROI analysis. So for this one, we have to talk about the total benefits. and then you have to subtract total cost and divide by total costs, right? So we have to go back, we have to calculate the total benefits. So if you go to A, you have to talk about the total benefits. So we can cumulate it, it's 213,000, right? We have 213,000. Then total costs. So you can look at total costs, right? 181,000, and then you divide by 181,000, which you will get 17.7%. Similarly, if you perform the same proposal, right, you will get total benefit 330 minus 247 divide by 347. So this is ROI for project B. So now when you have this, we can compare the two. So ROI for project A is 17.7 and ROI for the project B is 33.3. So in many places, it says the project must meet or exceed the minimum ROI. And if you have a company, minimum ROI 15, then we can ROI 50%, then we can talk about both A and B. Because minimum 15, A is 17.7 and B is 33.3. So both could be considered. And this also could be used to rank projects. Now here, project A, project B, two proposals for the same thing. So when you talk about this, it's also used, like depending on the software you use, we can see. We can use it to rank the projects, rank the people, right? And then you can talk about which is better. Right. Now, the first thing we can see ROI, return on investment, which measures the overall rate of return for the total period. And annual return rates can vary considerably. Two projects have the same ROI cannot be equal or desirable if the benefits of one project occur significantly earlier than the benefits of the other one. Right? Then ROI technique ignores the time of the cost and benefits. So this is one of the problems, because just by looking at the what you have, what is spent, it's very difficult to decide. Right. Now, let's look at this table. So we have various periods. We have different or discounted values. And then we can see the factors discrete on the time and the percentages increases. Right. Now, present value. Now, when you want to look at present value, I will explain what this is. Let's say we are going to get a $1 and 12% for 5 years. So you can go there. Right. Okay. So let's. So first of all, I have to look at the tables. we need to get a present value table. Let me check. So we have given $1 for 12% for 5 years. And what is the present value? Right, now let's see how we are going to find this. Now, what do you mean by present value, right? So when you have $1 with a increased rate of 12% for 5 years. So now what we are trying to do is, what is the net present value? What is the value right now? So you will get this is as 0.567. So if you go to the table, so the period is 5 years, and this is 12%. So 567 is the correct answer, right? So we get 0.567. So if this value for $1, what will be the value for $3,000? Right, now if you want to multiply this by 3,000, you have to multiply by the factor plus 3,000, and you will get the present value. Right, now let's look at the steps. So if you want to put it in the present value analysis, you have to adjust the timing and also the cost and benefit figures. So how we are going to do this? We need to multiply each project benefits costs. Then sum of all things. We have to sum all the time adjusted benefit and time adjusted costs. So that means we have to evaluate today's value. So calculating net present value is a project that is total present volume of the benefit minus total present value of the costs. So any project with a positive NPV, net present value, is economically feasible, can be used to commute in grant projects, or the things being equal. The project with the highest NPV is the best investment. Right, so the next one is we have to find out net present value. Right. Okay. So how we are going to do this? We now discuss, given a dollar rate, given a time with the interest rate, we can find out the net present value for today. Right, and this is the work. So what we could do is, we can find out what project benefits and the costs and multiply with the projected benefits. And then you sum all the time adjusted benefits and time adjusted costs. Then you calculate the net present value, right? That means the total present value of the business, benefits minus the total present value of the costs. So when you calculate this value, if you get a positive value, we say it's feasible, right? And if you have a situation where two values are the same, then we go for highest NPV. Right, so let's look at NPV analysis for the project A and project B. So we have project A. Right, now you can see we have project A, we have set of costs, and we have some benefits. So what we are going to do now, so we have to get A and B, right? And depend on the rate, we can define this. So let's see. We have so we have to define what the value of this. So we have not given any present value. So if you're assuming that it's the 12%, right? And then depend on the number of years, we can calculate the value. So for example, if it is 12%, if it is 1 year, and this is the net present value. 2 years, this is the net present value. So it goes on like this. So for project A, you can see the first year, what is the value, right? So what has to do? So for example, if you take project A, the cumulative cost is, we have cost 60,000, right? We have 60,000, but that 60,000 we have to multiply with this rate. So in this case, 0.893. Take the second one. So what happens for the 60,000? We got 0.8 or something. And then the second year, we have 17,000. So that you have to multiply by the rate. In this particular case, it's 0.797. So let's write down. So how many years we have? We go back. Right. AB. So let's put up our costs first. So project A, what we have is, let's say project A. The first year we have 60,000. Initially, then you have 17,000. Two, you have 18.5. Three, you have 19.2. Four, we have 25. Five, we have 22. Then six, we have 23.3. Right? So these are the costs. These are costs. And then we have to have benefits. Similarly, benefits also we have to talk about. What are the benefits? So we have benefits, right? So first one, that is B. For 0, we have 3,000, right? And then first year it's 28. Second year it's 31. Third year 34. So we have 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 36. So now 4, we have 36,000. And then 5, we have 39. 6, we have 42. Right. So if you just calculate, we already know the values, right? The cost is 181. So this total is 181. And then here, the total is 230. Okay. Now, the next thing that we need to look at is the values, it depreciate, right? So now we'll look at the values. So when we look at the values, what will happen over the years? Let's say we have to define some rate. So let's say it's a 12%. If it is 12%, you know that firstly what will happen? It's 0.893. Second year, 797. Third year, 712. Fourth year, 636. Fifth year, 057. Right? And so on. So simply you have to multiply with it. Right? So when you say 0, you don't have. So it's 1, right? So no change. And then when you have the year number 1, then we have to multiply by 0.9. So if I calculate again, it should be like this. Now, earlier, it simply we add everything. Now we have to look at it. We have to have 60, right? Total cost is, now you can see we have to get 60, right, into 1 plus 70 into 0.893 plus, right, we have 70 and then we have 18.5 into 0.797. Then 19.2 into 0.712. So using net present value, we are going to get, there's a reduction, right? Then the next one, we have 21, 0.636. So it goes on like this. Then 22 into 5, 0.567. And finally, we have 23.3 into 0.507. So that is the now when you correct it to the present value with 12%. So if you go back to the values, so you can see how the cost has changed: 60, 17, 18.5, 19.2, 21, 22, 23.3. But what we did next is, based on the net present value, we will check what will be for this particular day, right? You have to readjust. Similarly, you can talk about benefits as well, right? So when you look at the benefits, let's see what we have the benefits. So we can say, right, total benefits. And then we have what? 3. Then we have 20 into 0.893. So 328. We have then 31. So 2 years, 0.797, 0.797. Then we have 34. We have 0.712. Then we have 36 into 0.636. Then we have 42, sorry, 39, 39 into 0.567. Then we have last one, 42 into 0. Yes, 500. Right. Now, can you tell me, yes, which one gives you the higher value ratio? Yes. So these are the benefits, right? And these are the costs. Right. Now calculate the value and let me know whether, now in this particular case, now that we have adjusted for the change, if you get a positive value, that this is okay. If you get a negative value, then yeah, that we have to think about in the decision. Okay, so let me present again what we did in these courses. So the last one we call it net present value. That means we consider when the cost and benefits arises. If it is happen 1 year later on, when we value it, right, it should have a less value. So that's why when we have spent 1 year, we multiply by with a small value. So for example, we multiply by 0.893 after 1 year. After 2 years, it will be 0.797. So now, when you get the value, are we getting positive value or are we getting a negative value? So calculate and see. Right. Okay. So let's move to the next one. So what we want to do is present value analysis. We can solution of payback analysis and also return of investment. Unlike payback analysis, present value analysis consider all the cost and benefits. Right? And then net present value analysis, it takes into account timing of costs and benefits. Right? So if you take the real scenario, many companies prefer all of these methods to get more input for decision making. Right. Okay. Now, shall we do a small exercise? Right. So I will pause this exercise. You need this in WhatsApp. Okay, so I have posted the question in the WhatsApp. And then let me give the tables. So now we have to look for 12%. We know after 1 year, if you take $1, its value will be 0.893. 2 years, it will be 0.797. So this is what you need. So let me have a copy of this as well. Okay. So try this. I have put all the values. We have about 10 minutes. If you have any questions, please just let me know how to calculate this.